Hello, romance book lovers. Welcome to Tales from the Heart. I am Jenna Harte, and each week I post new episodes from my stories of crime and passion. Right now, we're listening to With This Ring, I Thee Kill, Book 3 of the Valentine Mysteries. This week is episode 13, in which we cover chapter 13 and the epilogue. That's right, this week we finished the book. Now, if you'd like to read along or get ahead in the story, you can get With This Ring I Thee Kill from your favorite ebook retailer or save by buying direct from me. Now, With This Ring I Thee Kill is the third book in the Valentine Mystery series. If you missed book 1, Deadly Valentine, you can listen by checking earlier episode postings, or if you'd like to read it, you can get the book for free at my website, jennaharte.com. Now, book 2, Old Flames Never Die, is available in earlier episode postings or available at your favorite ebook retailer, and again, for less through my shop. Tales from the Heart is posted to podcast platforms and YouTube each week, and these episodes are edited to censor out any intimate content. If you'd like to have a version that includes spicy bits, plus early access, behind-the-scenes information about the stories, bonus content, and more, please join me over at Ream Stories. You can learn more at reamstories.com/Jenna Harte. Now, never miss the mystery or romance by hitting the subscribe button, and remember that all the details and links you might need are just a click away in the description. Now, snuggle up, get comfy, and enjoy the show.
Chapter 13. A swarm of police came through the woods, gathering up the trio.
Tess,
Jack asked as Daniel joined the group.
she wasn't in there.
We got her jumping out the back window. She's back at the house.
Relief swept through Jack like a tidal wave.
Thank God.
So where's the ring?
Daniel asked. Jack pulled it from his pocket.
When Tess wasn't in there, I removed it from the box.
Clever.
Jack looked over at Cameron.
I think she saved my life.
Odd behavior for someone who's involved in kidnapping and murder.
No, you don't understand.
Cameron said, as the police cuffed her hands.
Please, let me explain.
Explain how you swooped in to take Tim's action. How you arranged to have your friend kidnapped.
Daniel said.
I don't think so.
No, she wasn't supposed to be kidnapped. That was Jacob. He went off script.
Cameron insisted.
So you admit to conspiring to steal the ring?
Jack asked.
It's not what you think.
Tears streamed down her face.
God, I'm not cut out for this.
Cut out for what?
Jack asked. She looked at Jack.
If you look in my pocket, you'll see. I've been helping in the investigation the whole time.
Daniel nodded to the policeman holding Cameron. He uncuffed her, and she pulled a paper from her pocket. She handed it to Daniel. He read it, then looked up in disbelief.
I'll need to verify this.
Yes, of course.
She said.
What is it?
Jack asked.
It says she's working with Interpol to catch Tim and Cal.
Jack jerked his gaze to her.
Why didn't you say anything?
Because I was undercover. How was I supposed to know you weren't in on it?
Me?
Jack asked incredulously.
Tim got me in trouble with the law in France. To help clear my name, I told them I'd help them catch Tim. But when I got here and learned Tim and Cal were in jail, I figured there was nothing for me to do. But then I got pushed down the stairs and Tess told me about the ring. So I knew more people were involved. I did use you and Tess, but I also worked to protect you both. I learned that Jacob was pulling the strings now, so I was trying to find a way to get him the ring, so that then he could be arrested. But he didn't want to wait. It was his idea to kidnap Tess. And you know the rest.
Do you believe this?
Jack asked, knowing Daniel had more experience in determining whether people were telling the truth or not.
I'll check it out,
Daniel said.
You'll have to come with me, and you.
He said, turning to Jack.
Need to get married?
Jack grinned.
She's really okay?
She's worried about you. I'll call her and let her know you're on your way.
I won't get pulled over for bullet holes in the truck, will I?
Jack asked as he got into Daniel's truck. Daniel inventoried the damage to his vehicle.
Sorry about that.
Jack said, feeling bad. Gas guzzling or not, few things hurt a man more than having his truck shot. Daniel sighed.
It's insured. Go get married.
You'll explain to her, won't you?
Cameron asked.
I'll leave that to you,
Jack said to Daniel. Daniel stepped away from the truck.
Hey,
Jack called.
will you make it?
Daniel stopped, looked surprised.
She'll want you there, we both will.
I'll get there as soon as possible.
Jack nodded. As he drove towards home, he pulled out his phone, wanting to let Tess know he was all right. He knew Daniel would call, but he wanted to hear her voice, to hear for himself that she was all right. He wasn't sure if Tess had her phone with her, so he called Helen.
She's busy.
Cora's cackled voice came over the phone. Jack didn't want to think about how Cora had gotten Helen's phone.
Tell her I'll meet her at the altar.
Was that my phone?
Helen asked, coming out of the master bathroom. Tess was right behind her. She'd rushed in from her ordeal, gulped down the glass of wine Kate shoved at her, then showered. Now, with Helen and Kate's help, her hair and makeup were done.
I don't know, it was that one.
Cora pointed to the phone sitting on top of Tess's dresser.
Well, who was it?
Helen gave Tess a look that said, "Are you sure you want to marry into this family?" Tess shrugged. After all, Helen's family had its share of crazy characters as well.
Jack.
Jack.
Tess rushed to Cora.
What did he say? Is he all right?
He said something mushy about meeting you at the altar.
Cora said with her full attention on Jack's iPad playing Angry Birds. Tess couldn't contain her joy. She beamed as she turned to Helen.
Let's get that dress on,
Helen said.
I'll be amazed if this wedding actually comes off.
Tess had forgotten her mother was brooding in the corner. Helen glared at Catherine.
Of course this wedding will come off. Maybe you'd like to help since it is your daughter.
Catherine looked nonplussed.
I was just thinking you wouldn't want to marry after such an ordeal. Do you really want to remember your wedding day as the day you were kidnapped?
No, I'll remember that the day I was kidnapped was made better by getting married.
Tess grinned. Even her mother couldn't bring her down.
You should hurry then. You've already kept your guests waiting for nearly 2 hours.
Not to worry,
Cora said from behind the iPad.
I had the caterers open the bar. Everyone is happy.
Tess laughed. Her phone rang and she rushed to answer it.
It's Daniel. He's all right?
Tess asked.
Yes, he's on his way.
Tess couldn't stop the stupid grin, even as she asked about Cameron.
You won't believe her story.
Daniel said.
But so far it's checking out.
Tess listened as Daniel explained Cameron's involvement with Interpol in catching Tim and Cal.
Why didn't she just tell us all this?
Tess felt relief that her friend didn't try to kill her, and in fact saved Jack by attacking Jacob with her crutches, but was angry that Cameron didn't trust them.
She thought Jack might be involved.
Jack?
She's not the first to think Jack was up to no good.
Tess heard the amusement in Daniel's voice.
Will you make it to the wedding?
I'm doing my best.
Will you bring Cameron with you?
Do you want me to? I could probably detain her if you wanted.
No,
Tess said. In the end, Cameron had tried to protect them.
bring her along.
Jack ran up the steps and skidded through the front door of his home. He headed for the stairs and was about to run up when a hand grabbed his arm.
Whoa there, Jack. You can't see the bride before the wedding. That's bad luck. Considering the morning you two have had, I wouldn't risk any more bad luck.
I need to see her.
I know. But I've seen her and she's fine. The ladies are upstairs making her presentable, which you might want to do. You're looking a little bedraggled.
Bedraggled. That's a nice way to say it.
Brad said, pushing a drink towards Jack.
Drink and then clean up so we can get this show on the road.
Jack considered it, but his instinct was leaning towards running up the stairs to see Tess.
It's only a few minutes more, Jack,
The senator added.
Use the washroom down here. Do you need help with the tie?
Brad asked.
No, I'm good.
Jack reluctantly walked through the foyer to the back washroom. They were right. He didn't look wedding ready. He washed his face, used his fingers to comb through his hair, and straightened his suit. He looked at himself in the mirror. The worry and panic dissipated, replaced by a slow, wide grin.
I'm getting married.
Oh, Tess, you're beautiful. Isn't she the most beautiful bride you've ever seen, Kat?
Helen said, as Tess turned for them in her wedding dress. Tess could tell her mother didn't like being called Kat, but being a good aristocratic woman, she kept it to herself.
She's lovely.
Which was about as good as Tess could expect from her mother. Tess looked into the mirror and felt beautiful. But she knew the beauty wasn't from the dress or the hair and makeup. It came from within her. Her joy emanated from the inside out. She couldn't remember ever looking or feeling so happy.
You clean up pretty good.
Cora put the iPad aside.
I got you something.
Tess knew Cora well enough that she was a little afraid of what Cora had for her.
It's not much, but you need something old and all that.
Cora held out a delicate jewelry box. Tess opened it and found a pair of pearl drop earrings.
Those were Jack's mother's, Lillian's earrings. I'm sure she'd want you to have them. Victor gave them to her when they got married.
Cora?
Tess felt guilt for distrusting Cora.
There's more.
Cora reached into the pocket of her bright pink dress and pulled out a simple, heart-shaped locket.
This was also Jack's mother's, Delia's, my girl. I know it's not much, but...
It's perfect.
Tess was unable to keep her eyes from filling with tears.
That one is the borrowed one. I can't part with it.
No, of course not.
Inside the locket, Tess saw the pictures of a beautiful young woman and her newborn son, Jack.
I can't tell you how much this means to me that a part of Jack's mothers will be in the wedding.
Mothers? How many mothers does the man have?
Tess heard the condescending voice of her mother. Cora's eyes narrowed. Before she could ramp up enough energy to tackle her mother, Tess reached out and took Cora's hands. She shook her head, hoping Cora understood that she should ignore her mother.
Thank you.
I got you something blue.
Kate twirled a blue garter on her finger. Tess lifted her foot as Kate helped her slip it on.
Tom and I got you a little something too.
Helen handed Tess a rectangle box.
It's gorgeous.
Tess pulled the delicate diamond and ruby bracelet out.
Your father and I bought you something new.
Catherine handed Tess a large square jewelry box. Tess knew it would be something outlandish that would dwarf the simple necklace Cora had just given her, but she also knew she needed to open it. Inside, she found an elegant pearl and diamond necklace. It was actually very nice and not too outlandish, yet still much more than the one Cora gave her.
Ooh, nice,
Cora said. As if she understood Tess's dilemma, she said,
You can wear them both, right?
Tess nodded.
Absolutely.
Tess worried her mother would protest, so she said,
Perhaps you can help me put this on.
Fortunately, Catherine said nothing as she took the necklace and hooked it around Tess's neck.
Are you sure about this, Tess? I know he does well, but two mothers and, Cora.
What's your problem?
Cora asked.
Your girdle on too tight?
Tess heard Helen and Kate stifle a laugh.
My goodness, you're a...
A what? I know I'm not an uptight, highbrow socialite who thinks she's better than everyone.
Well?
It's all right, Cora. We just do things a little different than my mother would have liked.
What? She doesn't want two people who love each other to get married in front of the people who love them in the house they'll be making their home?
Tess looked at Cora and nodded.
You know, Tess, I never liked you much. I thought you had too many problems. But meeting your mom, I have to say you've done pretty well considering.
Thank you, Cora.
Tess felt the heat from her mother's eyes. But fortunately, Catherine didn't add to it by speaking.
I'm going to check on Jack.
Cora left the room, but not before casting the evil eye on Tess's mother.
I'll give her a minute and then get your father.
Before she could, there was a knock on the door.
Are you ready yet?
Tess's father asked.
People have waited a long time. The senator is down there. I'm amazed he's stayed so long.
Tess shook her head. She wanted to tell them that the senator, with the breeding they felt Jack lacked, was Jack's biological father, but it was not her place to tell.
You must be the father.
Cora pushed him out of the way.
Look who I found downstairs,
she said, dragging Tom in. Tom looked uncertain until he saw Tess. He smiled, and his eyes misted.
You look beautiful, Tess.
It was something her parents should have said, but hadn't.
Thank you, Tom.
Tom here can escort you,
Cora said.
I beg your pardon. I'm her father.
You're just the donor to that incubator over there.
Cora wagged a finger toward Catherine.
Cora.
Tess appreciated the effort but didn't want to make things worse.
You'll escort her, won't you, Tom?
Tom gave everyone a sheepish look.
It goes without saying that Tess is like a daughter to me, and it would be an honor, but it's her father's place to escort her.
He leaned over and gave Tess a kiss.
I'm proud of you.
Then he gestured toward Helen, and the two left the room.
I'm heading down too,
Kate said.
You look gorgeous, Tess. Jack's going to be weak-kneed when he sees you.
Kate left the room, and with a growl toward Tess's parents, Cora followed.
It's quite a crew of people you spend time with,
her father said with disapproval.
Yeah, I'll have to stop having dinner at the senator's house.
Well, let's go. Your mother and I have a long trip home.
You're leaving tonight?
We have obligations. It's not our fault you're running late.
It wasn't her fault either, Tess wanted to remind them. It's not like she asked to be kidnapped. She realized, despite telling herself she didn't care how they behaved, that she hoped they'd do better on her wedding day. Instead of feeling disappointed, she thought of Helen and Tom, who behaved exactly as the parents of the bride should.
You two go down, get seated. I'll follow in a moment,
Tess told her parents.
I'm supposed to escort you.
No, I don't need to be given away. I'm my own woman, making my own choice to commit to Jack. I can give myself away.
That's highly improper,
her mother protested.
I don't know why you're surprised, Catherine. She's always done things the way she wants without consideration to us.
No one in San Francisco will find out unless you tell them. It will be okay, I promise.
Miffed, her parents left. Tess ignored them. She turned to the mirror and checked her appearance. She thought about Jack. His face came into her mind. His mischievous smile, devastating dimple, and of course, his brilliant blue-green eyes. She felt the love flow through her. She smiled at her reflection, took a deep breath, and followed her parents downstairs. At the bottom of the steps, Tess heard the instrumental version of At Last. It was her cue. Jack was just around the corner, waiting to join his life with hers. Before she could make the turn, the door opened, and Daniel walked in. He stopped short when he saw her. She thought she saw sadness, but then he smiled and gave her a thumbs up. He turned slightly and helped a disheveled Cameron through the door. She sent a sheepish smile towards Tess before Daniel hurried her to find a seat. Tess took a deep breath and stepped into the living area, converted into their wedding chapel. He stood, so beautiful at the other end. Earlier in the day, she'd been afraid she wouldn't be marrying him, but here they were. She wanted to be with him, touching him now. The step-together step was taking way too long, so she hurried, taking steps as wide as her dress would allow towards him. She'd have run if she could. As if he knew what she needed, he moved to her, reaching her in 2 strides. His arms wound around her and pulled her in.
You made it.
Was there any doubt?
He looked down on her, and she could see the love and awe she felt echoed in his eyes. He ran a finger over the heart-shaped locket.
She gave you this?
It's borrowed.
The fact that Jack asked about the necklace meant it had been Cora's idea all along, which made the gesture even more meaningful.
You're so beautiful.
Unable to help himself, he dipped his head and kissed her, firmly, fully. There was an audible awe from the guests.
It's not time for that,
the minister said.
It's always time for that,
Jack replied, his eyes holding Tess's gaze. There was laughter from the guests.
Let's get married,
Jack said.
Why not?
She grinned up at him. The ceremony was deep in sentiment, and fortunately, short in length. Finally, the minister pronounced them husband and wife.
Now you can kiss the bride.
Jack pulled Tess to him, dipped his head. It was their first kiss as husband and wife. The thought of it filled her heart until she thought it would burst from her chest. His kiss was tender and loving, and she gave it back to him. Perfection, she thought.
You're stuck with me now,
he said when he pulled away and the guests began to clap.
Hallelujah.
Taking her hand firmly in his, they turned and faced the guests. Tess could see tears from Cora, Helen, and Tom. She saw her parents, sitting near the back, her father looking put out. But she could swear her mother's eyes were misty. Then she heard the minister say,
Introducing Mr. and Mrs. Jack Valentine.
Epilogue.
I can't believe we're walking in the middle of Versailles,
Tess said, linking her arm through Jack's.
You doubt my honeymoon skills?
She turned, looked him knowingly in the eyes.
Not at all.
He waggled his brows.
I'm just surprised you brought me somewhere that requires flying to get there.
It's amazing what a little lorazepam can do,
he replied. Tess knew exactly what it could do. They spent their wedding night on an overnight flight to Paris, with him completely knocked out. It wasn't the wedding night she'd wanted, but the minute he carried her over the threshold of their hotel room, he'd made it up to her. Several times he showed her his honeymoon skills. Turns out he was right. Married sex was better than single sex.
It's perfect, and I appreciate your managing your pteromerhanophobia so that we could be here.
Tara what?
Fear of flying.
Right.
But we're not here just for a honeymoon, are we?
She stopped by the Bassin d'Apollon.
What do you mean?
The ring was born here, in this very place.
Ah, yes, I confess. I knew I wanted to get rid of the ring, but didn't want to bring the problems we've had onto other people, so giving it back from whence it came seemed like the best idea.
From whence?
Tess smirked at him.
That's how they talk then.
I'm not sure Louis spoke English.
Smart aleck.
I thought you were going to give it to Tim,
Tess said.
I convinced him that he should donate it. It would help his cause with the prosecuting attorney, as did his helping find you and catch Jacob. But that doesn't get him out of jail time, and he couldn't bring the ring to jail with him.
So?
Tess saw yet another chance to learn the price of the ring.
What's he selling it for?
We're back to that?
Amusement shone in his eyes. Tess just tilted her head, waiting.
0.
0?
She was sure her face fell as much as her anticipation.
Tim is donating it. I offered to bring it for him since it wasn't likely he'd be back here in a while.
Tess looked over the beauty of the fountain.
Do you think once the ring is gone, we'll be able to avoid any more trouble?
What? You don't like mystery and adventure?
Jack asked.
I don't like having our lives threatened.
I don't either,
he admitted.
Fortunately, I don't think trouble will be a regular part of our lives.
I hope not,
she said.
So, what's next?
Once we meet with Monsieur Pichot, we can do whatever you want.
Whatever?
She turned to him, slid her hands over his chest.
What if I want to go back to the hotel and have you show me those mad honeymoon skills of yours? You know, have a little oh la la?
I'd be happy to oh your la la.
He gave her a firm, quick kiss.
Mrs. Valentine.
That is the end of With This Ring I Thee Kill, and Jack and Tess live happily ever after, until, of course, Till Death Do Us Part, Book 4 in the Valentine Mystery series. I real quickly wanted to tell you a little bit about the French blue and the Hope diamond, which was used in this book. You might be interested to know that everything in this story regarding the French blue and the Hope diamond is true or based on real legends. The only fictional part is La Cour Bleue, the ring that Jack gave to Tess. Jean-Baptiste Tavernier was a French diamond merchant who obtained the stone. It's unclear if he bought it or stole it, and that stone would eventually become the Hope diamond. He sold it to Louis XIV of France in 1668, and in 1678, Louis commissioned the court jeweler, Sieur Pitot, to cut the stone. Now, Louis had 7 children with his mistress, Madame Montespan. The 5 surviving children were legitimized and given the name de Bourbon. Their daughter, Francoise Marie de Bourbon, is a direct ancestor of King Louis-Philippe I and the modern House of Orleans. Now, Madame Montespan had hired Catherine Moivoisin, or La Voisin, a fortune teller, and had an alleged sorceress to help her win and keep the king's favor. Montespan was also suspected of being involved in Affaire de Poisons, a murder scandal that led to La Voisin's conviction of witchcraft. La Voisin was burned in public in 1680. Madame Montespan, as the mother of legitimate children of the king, fared much better. She was exiled outside of Paris, living on a hefty sum from the king. Now later, King Louis XV had the French blue set into a more elaborate jeweled pendant for Order of the Golden Fleece. But thieves stole the French blue and other royal jewels during the French Revolution in 1792, while King Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette were imprisoned. Stories indicate that Marie Antoinette may have charged a maid with escaping to England with some jewels in the hopes that the king and queen would eventually escape as well. The news story that Jack reads about the heirs of Marie Antoinette's maid being robbed of jewels thought to have been Marie Antoinette's is true. The legend of the money pit, where some believe Marie Antoinette's jewels end up, is real, even though there is no proof. It's unclear what happened to the diamond after leaving France until 1812, when John Francillon documented a deep blue diamond owned by Daniel Eliasson. Henry Philip Hope bought the diamond and ultimately gave the diamond its name. The diamond was passed down to the heirs of Hope until 1901, when Lord Francis Hope sold the stone to a London dealer who sold it to Frankel & Sons in New York City. Later, the stone was purchased by Salim Habib, who auctioned it in Paris in 1909. Interestingly, the stone was finally back in its home city, but it didn't sell at auction. Eventually, Pierre Cartier bought the diamond. Cartier reset the stone and sold it to Mrs. Evelyn Walsh McLean of Washington, D.C. in 1911. She had the diamond set in the necklace it's found in now. Now, Mrs. McLean owned the Hope diamond until her death in 1947. Harry Winston, Inc. of New York City, purchased it in 1949. The Hope diamond became a popular attraction at exhibits worldwide. In November 1958, Winston donated the Hope diamond to the Smithsonian Institution, where it continues to be one of the museum's most popular attractions. Now, definitive proof that the Hope diamond was part of the original French blue came in 2008 after extensive study of the stone and historical documents. But let's talk a little bit about the curse of the Hope diamond. Now, the curse comes from an odd and unfortunate deaths and misfortunes that many have suffered after owning or handling the stone. Some of these events may be more legend than truth, such as Tavernier, the one who stole or somehow obtained the stone in India, being mauled by dogs. However, other accidents can be proven. Here are some of the ill-fated events supposedly suffered by people who were in contact with the Hope diamond. Tavernier was mauled by dogs in Russia, and some stories indicate Tavernier stole the diamond from a Hindu temple, and in retaliation, the Hindu people cursed the stone. Although it's unclear now how Tavernier obtained the diamond, most experts don't think he took it from a temple. He may not have been mauled by dogs either. Madame Montespan was suspected of participating in witchcraft and black masses. Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette were guillotined. Salim Habib, a wealthy Turkish diamond merchant, died in a shipwreck. Mrs. McLean's son died in a freak car accident. Her daughter passed by her own hand, and her husband ended up committed to an insane asylum. James Todd, the postman who delivered the Hope diamond to the Smithsonian, ended up in a truck accident that crushed his leg, and his house burnt down. Now, you can check out the long list of others who are thought to have suffered from the curse of the Hope diamond on a PBS show called Treasures of the World. And if you want to learn more about the Hope diamond, you can check out Museum of Diamonds, which gives information about how the scientists were able to prove the Hope diamond came from the French blue. And of course, you can check out the Smithsonian's History of the Hope diamond. I will have links to these in the description below. Thank you so much for listening to this episode from Tales from the Heart. I hope that you enjoyed it and that you will be back when we start reading Till Death Do Us Part, Book 4 in the Valentine Mysteries. Nothing can stop Jack and Tess's wedded bliss, except maybe murder. Now remember, you can listen to full uncensored episodes over at reamstories.com/Jenna Harte. Just click the follow button and then select With This Ring ID Kill Audio for all the episodes. If you'd like to read along or get ahead in the story, you can get With This Ring ID Kill from your favorite ebook retailer or save by buying direct from me. Now, all the details and links you might need are just a click away in the description. Now, don't miss the next episode. Hit the subscribe button so you know when it's posted. Thank you again for listening, and until next time, this is Jenna Harte wishing you peace, love, and happily ever after.